AFP. The transformation of American law enforcement into a quasi-military force represents one of the most profound and disturbing shifts in domestic policy over the past 3 decades. What began in 1997 under the Clinton administration as a program to bolster police capabilities in fighting the war on drugs has evolved into a massive pipeline that has transferred over $7 billion worth of military equipment to more than 8,000 local law enforcement agencies across the country. This militarization comes with a staggering human cost that challenges the very foundations of community policing and public safety in America. The evidence is clear and damning. Police militarization neither protects officers nor reduces crime, but it does increase violence, erode public trust, and disproportionately harm communities of color. The mechanism driving this transformation is primarily the 1033 program, a federal initiative that allows the Department of Defense to transfer excess military equipment to civilian police departments. As of 2022, the total value of these transfers since 1990 reached $7.1 billion. Calculated based on original acquisition value without accounting for depreciation of used items, the inventory reads like a military supply catalog rather than tools for community policing. Law enforcement agencies have acquired mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, originally designed to withstand improvised explosive devices in Iraq and Afghanistan, military helicopters, assault rifles, grenade launchers, bayonets, and night vision equipment, VMRAP. Vehicles alone cost approximately $800,000 each when originally produced for the Department of Defense, and about 600 of these have been transferred to local law enforcement agencies through the program. Small-town police departments now possess equipment that would have been unthinkable just a generation ago, transforming the relationship between law enforcement and the communities they serve. The financial dimensions of police militarization extend far beyond the 1033 program. Since 2003, states and metropolitan areas have received $24.3 billion from 2 Department of Homeland Security grant programs, the State Homeland Security Program and the Urban Area Security Initiative, which have operated with minimal oversight. These programs emerged in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, using counterterrorism as justification for arming local police with battlefield equipment. In 2020 alone, the Department of Homeland Security planned to distribute $1.03 billion to state, local, and tribal agencies through these programs, representing a $25 million increase over the previous year. This creates a troubling dynamic, where the federal government actively incentivizes militarization, while claiming the equipment comes at no cost to taxpayers. The reality is that American taxpayers pay twice. First, to purchase equipment for the military, and then again when that equipment fails to deliver on promises of enhanced safety. The promised benefits of militarization have proven to be nothing more than hollow rhetoric. A comprehensive study of 9,000 law enforcement agencies found that police militarization neither reduces rates of violent crime nor changes the number of officers assaulted or killed. The research examined what happened before and after police forces acquired SWAT teams and found no perceptible impact on officer safety at the national level. When agencies were allowed to trend differentially over time, the effect on crime shrunk to a statistically insignificant 4.3%. Estimates for officer deaths, both accidental and felonious, were precise and near zero, partly because such events are so rare. These findings demolish the central argument used by law enforcement administrators to justify militarization. There is no trade-off between civil liberties and public safety because militarized policing provides no detectable benefits in terms of officer safety or violent crime reduction. The actual costs of militarization are measured in human lives and shattered communities. Research using institutional features that exogenously determine the distribution of military equipment to police departments shows that each year police militarization results in 64 additional killings by police, 12,440 police officer assaults, and 2,653 police officer injuries. This finding contradicts the narrative that militarization protects officers, revealing instead that it creates a dangerous feedback loop where aggressive tactics provoke resistance and escalation. Over 1,000 people in the United States are killed by law enforcement agents each year, with per capita rates that are over 15 times higher than those found in most Western countries. These killings are concentrated in specific communities. Young black men are 9 times more likely than other Americans to be killed by police. The militarization of American policing has created a war zone mentality, where citizens are treated as enemy combatants rather than community members, deserving protection and respect. The deployment patterns of militarized police units reveals systematic racial bias built into the foundation of these programs. Using a rare geocoded census of SWAT team deployments from Maryland, researchers demonstrated that militarized police units are more often deployed in communities with large shares of African American residents, even after controlling for local crime rates. This disparity cannot be explained by differences in criminal activity or public safety needs. It represents a deliberate choice to concentrate military-style policing in communities of color. ACLU. Statistical analysis found that more than 42% of people affected by SWAT deployment to execute search warrants were black, with another 12% being Latino. The war on drugs has provided the justification for this discriminatory enforcement, with approximately 62% of SWAT deployments conducted by 20 law enforcement agencies during 2011 and 2012 being solely to search for drugs. This occurs despite the fact that 67% of Americans prefer drug treatment over policing and prosecution, revealing a profound disconnect between militarized enforcement practices and public sentiment. The psychological and social costs of militarization extend beyond direct violence to erode the legitimacy of law enforcement itself. Survey experiments demonstrate that seeing militarized police in news reports may diminish police reputation in the mass public. When citizens encounter officers dressed in camouflage, carrying assault rifles, and riding in armored vehicles designed for combat zones, the message is unmistakable. The police view the community as a threat rather than as people to protect and serve. Overall, respondent support for funding for law enforcement fell by 4 percentage points with police militarization photos, and their desires for police patrols took a 3% hit. This erosion of public trust has cascading effects throughout the criminal justice system, making communities less willing to cooperate with investigations, report crimes, or view law enforcement as a legitimate institution worthy of respect and support. The lack of meaningful oversight and accountability compounds these problems at every level. For nearly 20 years, the 1033 program operated without a requirement for the Department of Defense or receiving agencies to publicly report what equipment had been transferred, with inconsistent record-keeping, making it hard to evaluate its effects. Its equipment has simply vanished from inventories, with no consequences for the agencies responsible for tracking military weapons and vehicles. The ACLU examined approximately 20 extreme cases where police or sheriff's departments received large values of transfers, over $800,000 over 1 year, and found no evidence that 1033 transfers decreased police budgets. In only one case did an influx of 1033 equipment correspond to an equivalent decrease in police spending in the following year. The claim that militarization saves taxpayer money is demonstrably false. Police departments continue spending at previous levels while accumulating arsenals that would shock residents of most democratic nations. The deadly costs of police over-militarization demand immediate and comprehensive reform. The evidence shows conclusively that militarized policing fails to enhance officer safety, fails to reduce crime, targets communities of color, increases violence from and against police, and destroys public trust in law enforcement. These are not acceptable trade-offs for a democratic society committed to equal justice under law. The 1033 program should be repealed. Department of Homeland Security grants for military equipment should be redirected toward genuine community safety programs, and law enforcement agencies should return to the fundamental mission of protecting and serving communities, rather than occupying them like hostile territory. The transformation of American police into a militarized force represents a profound betrayal of democratic values, and reversing this trend is essential for building a just and safe society for all citizens.